Hello everyone and welcome back to my RP-0 playthrough with Race in Space. So last episode had some contract oddities, which we managed to figure out after the broadcast ended. The reentry contract was because the reentry contract used to require you having not completed the first crewed orbital contract. So when I did complete that, the one I had accepted auto-failed. So that explained that failure. What's also happened, and the money went up by 100,000 because, or 120,000, because we were first to complete crewed orbit. So I now have the leader flag. So anything I do next, I won't actually get monies for. But that's okay. We have oodles of money. And in fact, we're going to spend a good chunk of that money because I desperately need a second build rate in the VAB, that's for sure. And also, we got to consider starting to get the R&D complex. Let's see, this is 14, I guess. Start 14. All right, so we can afford to upgrade that. We could afford to upgrade this, but it would be a bit of a stretch. What contracts do we have active? We have an atmospheric analysis satellite that we're going to complete with Firebug 2. Sun synchronous orbit, we're going to complete that with Firebug 2. Geostationary will complete at some point. We have to do another lunar landing before August next year. We have to do our reentry contract, which is from Firebug 2. And we have to launch our Venus flyby. Now, happily, we get a rather giant advance from this, 225. We get a gobsmackingly gigantic advance from this, and we have 2 years to do it. So basically, pull this back up. 21 days. All right, Venus window in 78 days. So there's this actually gives rise to some interesting strategy because it might pay to lose the leader flag and then regain it to get some money. For example, Spacewalk only pays 40,000, so we can lose that first. That's fine. Docking pays 120,000. First space station pays 400,000, so we definitely want to get that one. Crewed lunar flyby pays 250,000. So we don't get anything extra for lunar orbit. That's fine. Yeah, and the interplanetary don't do much. So really, ideally, what I would like is, I'm going to get the spacewalk one because we got the astronaut complex already set up. I'll just not get the 40,000 funds. That's fine. And by the time I'm ready to do another first, probably someone will beat me to Venus. Probably Sound and Fury will beat me to Venus. Possibly Blue Diamond as well. And then we can get the docking stuff. Or perhaps a lunar flyby. We'll see. But we're running out of nodes to unlock. So we're going to have to do this. So I know I need higher build rate. That takes us down quite a bit. We're going to fly the first EVA soon. And we want our 3-day duration record. So we're going to accept this. That will max out our contracts until we start completing some. We'll start upgrading this. And we'll go ahead and grab our Eagle. And build one for an EVA. Where's Eagle? That's Beagle, not Eagle. It's interesting. It's Eagle capsule on Beagle launch vehicle. All right, so step one. Let's get rid of the film camera. We don't need that anymore. Offset this slightly. All right. Eagle Block 2. All right, we now have ridiculous delta V. So we could go polar if we wanted. Which I don't particularly want. We also have higher delta V now, because we removed some tonnage. We could reset the parachute if we cared, but we don't care. What I will do is up the life support, because remember we had that issue. So what exactly does the EVA contract say? Because I think the duration record will reset itself. So where's the EVA contract? First EVA. Reach orbit. We actually have to go look at the real contract, not the text summary. The letter of the law. I think our life support resources were fine. It was just electric charge that was the problem. Because we're at 3.5 days and we're at 4 days of oxygen. So, yeah. Give ourselves a little more scrub. Oh, we have no volume available. That's interesting. Oh, that's probably why I was low on electric charge, actually. So let's fix this. Okay, and let's decrease this to 3 minutes of hydrazine. Whoops. How much hydrazine is this actually? 101.7. All right. .7. Okay, and now let's add some electric charge and see what happens to our delta V. Doesn't go down that badly. All right, that's plenty of battery. 40,000, just shy of 40,000. So we can decrease the battery in here a little bit and put in some more. Put in more scrubbing. All right, that all works out fine. Now, how much electric charge is in here? 39,424. 138. Okay, is 177,000 over 0.53 over 86,400 is 3.87 days. I think we'll be good. Put those back in. All right. So this is the Eagle Block 2. Copious delta V. Is there anything else we need to bring along with us? We don't really have any more science we can do. We've already recovered biological samples from space. So basically, we will not have to modify this vessel much to do the first docking. We'll just put some additional RCS on here and extend the service module some. Can also do the first rendezvous contract. Right. Anyway, this is good enough, I think. So let's build Eagle 3. Hey everybody who just joined, good to see you. Okay, so for Firebug 2 Sun Synchronous Orbit, so we're going to be building, so Eagle 3 is actually going to launch after our interplanetary launch, it looks like. And R&D is going to take almost 2 years. The VAB will take just shy of a year. That's depressing. I think I want to spend a little more on the build points. And cut those times down a little bit. Right, so we're going to go ahead and do our EVA. Well, sorry, do our Firebug. Okay. So now we're going to go ahead and design our Venusian probe before we launch the Firebug. How long do we have? We have 56 days. All right, so let's look at Selene 5, which we might not actually need this much of a launch vehicle. We might be able to just do it with what we have. We're going to unlock the Ranger Block 1 core, which costs a... Well, we could probably do it with the early controllable core if we had to. Comms. We can finally get a real... That's non-RP-0. That's interesting. Weird. I thought that we supported that. 30 watts, and this is 25 watts. Well, we'll just get that one. We'll get this one because it's supported. $8 million. This is 80 kilograms, and it supports 300 kilograms. 50 watts, 0.8 watts. Oh, yeah, also, do we have more solar panels? We do have larger solar panels now. I think we want this one. We might want the big one, too. So let's start designing, and we'll see if we actually need this launch vehicle. We might not, after all. Okay, so all the sensors. We're certainly not going to need a kick motor. We're not going to try to enter orbit in Venus. That would be pretty crazy. We will need some kind of mid-course correction. Let's see what we can do with 200 kilos. Let's get rid of that. Let's get rid of that. Let's add the dish. Okay. We're already up to 117 kilos before we've even put on any kind of mid-course correction or solar panels, let alone goo. We're going to have to do all our mid-course corrections on RCS because we can't afford to bring a thruster. Science. What we do want to bring are some biological samples. $178 kilograms. All right, I think we might have to unlock that Ranger core. I don't know. We'll see. How much hydrogen will we actually need? All right, so how long? 56 days. All right, so we're at 162. Let's put a little bit of hydrazine in here. Um, 625. All right, we're getting perilously close to the mass limit. Put the RCS down here. Put that there, and we'll put some solar panels. So that used 30 watts. This provides 31.6 watts. So we're going to need 2 of these per side. All right, to get about 60 watts in Earth orbit. We're at 0.196. All right, so how much hydrazine do we actually have? So we're at 199 full and 153 empty. So let's bring up ye old calculator. 199 over 153. Mass ratio of 1.3 take the natural log, is 0.26 times 9.80665. And then what is the specific impulse of these? It's like 198, I think. 198, yes. Times 198. So we have 510 meters per second delta V. That's more than enough for any kind of course correction we'd want to do. How long is the burn time? It requires 0.0123. So 0.0123 times 4 is 0.05 liters a second. How many liters did we have in total? It was like, there's 31 and 14.4. 31.4 and 14.4. 31 and 15 is 36, 46 over 0.05. So it's got 15 minutes of burn time. So any course correction is going to be ludicrously slow. But that's okay. We have time when we're in interstellar space. Sorry, interplanetary space. We're not going interstellar. That would be insane. Okay. So let's action group some things. So action group 1 is all that stuff. Action group 2 is that thing. Action group 3 is empty. So let's put biosample there and this biosample here. All right. And we're doing this without the Ranger core. So, actually, let's move these up a little bit. Just shy of collide. What does this look like extended? Let's see. All right, it still misses it. That's good. All right. Actually, no, I have a better idea. Okay, that looks broadly better, but we can do slightly better yet. Okay, and that's like a, there, now they're aligned. But they're off floating in space, so let's push them back. Okay, that's good. So this is 200 kilograms going to Venus. What was the transfer delta V requirement? It was 3627. So we should have about 3,700 meters per second in this upper stage. Let's see what happens when we do this. We have to bulge it slightly is the first thing. Oh, shoot, right-clicking on it, move that. Dagnabbit. We also might be able to get away with we almost certainly would be able to get away with Delta Avionics instead of Agena Avionics here, because we only have to coast in low Earth orbit for a couple orbits. And that will save both on money and on mass. So let's do that thing. Cheap at the price. All right. And I think we can now afford to go back to 4 minutes. Well, 4:05. No, we can go back to 4 minutes even. All right, so this should be able to place itself into low Earth orbit unaided. Then the upper stage will do its thing. These fairing sides need to go down here. And that will improve our delta V as well. By, yes, 100 meters per second. All right, so we're going to have to rush build some things because we're building 2 of these puppies. Because Specimen Stiff, RSpark EC is the person to ask about Proc Avionics. I haven't used them much at all yet. They should compare quite closely to the existing avionics system, is the design. They just give you more flexibility. And you can tune things much nicer. All right. Yeah, that doesn't have any kind of retro, but that's fine. We can separate with RCS because we have, like, 15 minutes of burn time on the RCS. I'm tempted. How heavy are these thrusts? Let's see. So we'd have to pay 6 kilograms. Yeah, okay. I'm going to redesign this slightly because I don't want to wait forever. I think we actually need some... we need some kind of main engine. Probably could get by with only one of them, but we'll have 2. And actuation toggles. Nothing except fore aft. Now we have to decrease our hydrazine somewhat so that we can go back below. Yeah, okay. So our mass ratio got slightly worse, but we did have a bunch of delta V. So we'll do that. And that will mean that we don't have to spend nearly as long waiting for a correction burn. Okay, so let's put these back on. I think I can get away with tightening the fairing a little bit. Yeah. Okay, that'll just fit inside the fairing. Yep, just barely. Well, maybe we can... Yeah. All right. I think that should be good. You also might be able to get away with a slightly lower burn time on that upper, but I think we'll stick with what we got. Right, so we're going to have to spend a fair amount of money rushing these because we need to build 2 of them, as I said, and we don't have a second build rate in the VAB yet. At least we switched to Delta Avionics. That shaved a whole bunch of time off. Yeah, I think we've got enough RCS propellant. We don't have to spin anything up. So that's fine. All right, so this is basically quite literally AbleStar. It's just a hair wider. All right, check staging, ignition, clamps, separation, ullage, ignition, fairing sep, sep and retro. Engage all these. Sep. We might as well put the RCS along with the sep. Okay. Now we get to build 2 of them. Oops, I should have called it so through 2. If we're lucky, both will make it there, and we can try to scrape different biomes from Venus on our approach. If we're unlucky, then only one will make it. But with a window, you really kind of don't want to mess around with only having 1 launch for it. And we can afford to have 2, I think. So Eagle 3, we're actually going to scrap because we need the money back. Oh, and we can roll out Firebug 2 so that we can get that badly needed money. So we're going to rush these quite a lot. We're going to have to for them both to complete within like 52 days or something. How long would they take? They'll take a while to roll out. Oh, we only have, shoot, we also only have 1 launch pad. So this is sort of a problem. Happily, we have enough extra delta V that we can fly a slightly off window trajectory, I think. Right. I didn't think about launch pads, because they cost so they cost 85,000 funds, because you have to pay 11 to build the pad and then another 75K to upgrade it. Actually, no, wait. I think it was like 150K, because this is right. Because this is, yeah. So that's going to be another concern. So we need more money, which we can invest in more infrastructure, and then wait like a year. Right. Let's see how much we can rush build these. That's getting expensive. That was quite expensive to rush build, but we'll get it back from the contract. That's getting dangerously low on money. 18 plus 23 is 41. All right, so we actually rush built a little bit too much, but it gives us a little breathing room. So let's, you know what, I'm going to already start building another launch pad. All right, so we have to launch to a 96-degree inclination, a 300-kilometer perigee, and like a 650-kilometer apogee. All right, I'm going to save here in case something goes wrong, given how many issues the last thing had. if we're desperately in need of funds, I can cancel one of those cheap contracts, and then then get an expensive contract that'll give us a big advance. All right, 1.2590 is fine. 110. Let's try 40. All right, so and I'm going to have to watch this because I don't trust MechJeb for these high Q ascents. Minus 96. Yeah, we're going to go for as low an orbit as it is possible to achieve. And then clean it up after we're inserted. Yeah, we're doing a very shallow ascent. Might even want to go with 100. I think we want to go with 100. This is going to be a bit flamey on the way up, I think. Yeah, so here goes. To those wondering what we are launching Firebug 2, which will test reentry, will give us the atmospheric analysis contract, will give us the sun synchronous orbit contract. Okay, pitch over. I'm going to show the target. Now, I may have to take a bit of manual control because, like I said, I don't trust MechJeb in a high Q ascent, and this will be an extraordinarily high Q ascent. The date shows right here in Kerbal Alarm Clock. We're right on the AOA limit, even though it's not saying we're on the AOA limit. Alpha is 3. All right, alpha's going down. That's good. Good, we've passed max Q. Not even while I was looking. Yay, fins. Apparently we haven't done a pressure scan. Oh, because it's biome flying low. Look at her go. Our gravity losses are going to be hilariously low. At least I trust they'll be hilariously low. Man, this isn't actually as flamey as an ascent as I thought, which is sort of a bad sign for our gravity losses. All right, pitching down slightly more. Further pitch down. Oh, their steering losses are not great. Pitch down a little bit more, because we really do not want a perigee much above 150. All right. Let's pitch back up to nominal. I mean, 30, what was it, like 38 or 40? I forget. That was fairly high Q. But like a really high one is like 70 or 80. Let's be real. All right. So, fairing SEP. All right, let's minimize steering losses a little bit. Ugh, we might not have enough delta V on this thing. We might just have to re-enter and not complete the other contracts. Maybe we'll be okay. We'll see. We might not get atmospheric analysis, but we should get sun synchronous. I think we'll have enough delta V for a 300 by 300 orbit. And the other contracts don't pay for squat. So it's fine. As long as we get the re-entry contract, we're fine. We're golden. Pitch up slightly more. Build up a little more steering loss. You gotta be kidding me. That is literally the first AJ-10 failure we've ever had. All right. Let's see what we can do here. We can try restarting the thing because it does have infinite restarts. Firebug 2. Let's see. Okay. What do you mean no ignitions remaining? It has infinite reignitions. How does it? All right, that's weird. Something's weird here. All right, hold on. Let me look at the save file and see why the heck it has 0 ignitions. Name Firebug 2. Module engines. Module engines RF. Yeah, it got set to 0. That's odd. All right. Let's see how this works. Okay, let's try again. There we are. That was weird. Well, so much for, yeah, so much for the other contracts, but we'll at least get some of these things. All right. All right. Where was the reentry? Oh, we never went over one. Great. That's just wonderful. Despite achieving the speed necessary, we never went over 150 kilometers, so we're not actually going to complete that contract. Okay. Okay, this is my life now. Yeah. All right. I don't think there's any. Oh, and there's also, of course, the fact that I didn't stage before we went off comms, so this will probably just burn up. At least the parachute's armed. Yeah, let's see how it behaves in the atmosphere. Probably the whole thing will just burn up. This was quite a failure. Especially because it's reorienting exactly the way I don't want it to orient. Well, it's got some spin, so maybe it'll burn the rest of the thing off. Oh, I know what we can do. We can orient retrograde. Because that at least didn't require anything. Yeah, we should have gone north and gotten wallops. Well, actually, we're far enough down now that, yeah, okay. I guess we should have gone over the continental United States. Ridiculous. I didn't know MechJeb had a scripting module. It has a scripting module now? All right, at some point things are going to start to get hot. All right, that seems... Oh, that's new. Well, there goes a lot of stuff. Don't flip. Don't flip. Don't flip. Yay! We're okay now. If it would freaking orient correctly and not twibble too much. Those fins should be aerodynamic. Yeah, they should. What's heating up? What just... The fins blew? Yeah, the fins blew. That was weird. Well, they're going to be okay. But we won't get credit for that contract because we didn't hit 150 kilometers when we were 6,500 meters per second. We were like 149 kilometers. But them's the breaks. All right. So we won't actually get any money until the Venus contract. Should just abort something and pick something with a big advance so we get lots of money. Because I don't particularly care about, like, geostation. Yeah, I mean, I'm not even sure we'll get geostationary by the time we're supposed to. So, I mean, I guess we could get it if one of the Ciceras fails to launch. So we won't abort it until after that. Actually, no, the delta V requirement for geostationary is going to be broadly equivalent. So if we have a failure, we can't do either. Okay, this is the second time I've flown a orbit recovery contract that has just barely failed for one reason or another. I was 1 kilometer short. No, that's not true. I wasn't going fast enough when I was 1 kilometer short. I was more like 10 kilometers short. It's what life is like with test flight. Hey, our Sparky seat. All right, let's warp on down. At least we'll get some money for recovering this thing. It's $1 million for the probe core plus chump change for the rest. And we verified our reentry vehicle works, for what it's worth. We're not even falling that fast. Drogue out. I think this is, yep, this is when it deploys fully. Main out, and main goes full and drogue is cut. All right, down we go. All right. I think given this failure, we'll have to check the deadlines for everything and make sure we'll actually do everything by their deadline. Meters, 50 meters, 40, 30, 20, and sploosh, recover. At least we'll get a little science from this mission. We won't get any money, though, other than whatever money we get back from recovering it. Yeah, we got some science. 6 science. And we got 1,000,000 funds back. Alright, so that was humiliating. It is November 21st, 1952. Deadline. Almost a year. And these are the records. Alright, so we'll have to do this in a few months. That we've got time on. That we've got time on. This we've got time on. Alright, so what's coming up next is sun synchronous. Yeah, what's coming up next is sun synchronous. And oh, I can't cancel it. Right, because it's a milestone. Alright. Alright, so my brilliant idea of canceling a contract, well, I could cancel that if I had to. And then take a big milestone that would give me a lot of money. But I don't think we're going to need to. See if there are literally any nodes we can unlock. Alright, we can highlight that. So let's do that. Now do this. Get our highlight back. Do this. Get our highlight back. Do this. Do this. Get our highlight back. Do that. Miniaturization. We've done that. Oh, get our highlight back. Get that. All right, we still haven't touched anything that we haven't. Short-term have we? Get our highlight back. All right, that gives us an upgrade point. And we'll spend it for the V&B so that the buildings complete faster and so that the stuff we're building complete faster. All right, we almost have a second launch pad, but it won't do us any good because we can't build anything other than what we're building. All right, so we have very little we can do until these complete and we launch. All right, so rather than combining the sun synchronous and atmospheric and reentry, we're just going to go ahead and build the cheapest little thingy we can, basically. to do that reentry contract. Save that heat shield. Get rid of all this. So we'll put that on because it's dirt cheap. We'll put this on, and we'll put a parachute on. And I think this is going to turn out to not be stable, but we'll see. Wet mass. Okay. Okay, so this is quite cheap. Now let's just verify that it is aerodynamically stable. Nope, it's not. It's not. Great. All right, so we'll try the stack chute, I guess. Wet mass. Drogue, wet. Okay. Now let's look. All right, that's stable. Not as stable as I'd like, but it is stable. Let's just make sure the cross is in the right place. Yeah. All right. Okay, and we definitely don't need that avionics unit. We need this avionics unit because it's cheap. This is dirt cheap. So this is just going to complete that contract and give us some money, assuming we don't have a failure. And our delta V is good enough for orbit. All right, everything looks good. Boy, are we running low on money. Okay, and that'll only take 18 days. Well, right, we have literally nothing else we can do. Because we can't actually bother to unlock any of the stuff from basic construction because we don't have the money to. How awesome is that? General construction gives us heat shields. Flight control gives us biprop RCS. I think I want to do it this way. All right. Well, here goes. All right, it takes only a day and a half to roll out. So we're going to roll it out really early, so we're ready. And I'm just going to sync again on the principle that syncing is good. It won't change anything. So we want to launch, I think we want to launch fairly early, because we're going to need a couple days to roll the next thing out, and then a day, give or take, to be in the plane of the moon. So we want to launch, I think, 3 days before that alarm? No, 1 day. 2 days? Oh, you can't change that here. Yeah, so I think we want to launch about 2 days before that alarm. Naharani says, how do you get your research and building done so fast? I have to wait a third of a year for each rocket launch at this point, and I have 1.2 build points a second. All right, so note the total number of upgrade points here. I've been very spendy with buying upgrade points, and it gives me a 2.35 build rate here, and R&D is up 0.363 science per day. So you get upgrade points also free every time you unlock a node, so that's why I unlock stage combustion, even though I'm never going to use it, just to get that upgrade point. 30 science for 1 upgrade point is a fine trade, because we're going to be rolling in science, and in particular because there are a number of nodes we can't unlock yet because we don't have the R&D building unlocked, even if we wanted to. And we have to wait a while for that. It is queued up, but it's going to take, ooh, year and a half. Well, year and a quarter. So Nakarani, there's no need to restart. I mean, unless you really care about what date it is. I mean, you can get to the moon in 1980 if you want. It doesn't matter. If you're all out of money, then yeah, you're in a bit of trouble. But what you could do is cancel a contract, get a contract that has a giant advance, soak most of the advance into upgrade points, and do the contract, and then you'll be okay. So we're going to warp to that being out on the pad. Now, we are 36 days out, so let's warp to this. So launch pad 2 is going to be completed. Okay. We certainly don't have the money to upgrade it, because it costs $112,500. Going to need to do that at some point, but if I had a spare contract slot, shoot, what's the thing coming up? It's sun synchronous, I think, in February, but we'll be okay. That's the nearest deadline, but we'll be okay. 2 days to basic construction, and then some time to sit through a 2. All right, what would this cost to rush? Oh, that's trivial. 29 days minus 13. 16 days. Minus we wanted 3 days. Clearance is 13 days. minus a day to roll that out is 12 days. Can we? How much would it cost to rush and complete that in 12 days, just so we have some money? Because I kind of want to do this mission now, and so let's do this. Hopefully this was not the worst choice in the world. Roll back. Okay. Let's get Firebug 3 ready. Takes 5 hours to roll out. Whoa! What just happened? We warped to something weird. Oh! Son of a gun. I'm gonna... That was... Let me see if I can fix that, because that was screwy. No, can't fix it. So we'll just have to launch Firebug after, because we have the wrong pad selected. Yeah, it takes 11 hours. We're going to do this anyway. All right. Hopefully this was not stupid. Hopefully this was not stupid. All right, so we want no inclination. Well, no, we want 28.608 inclination. We want a higher turn in altitude. Engage the autopilot. Fire up the engines. And away we go. Bye, Jess. Thank you so much. And I'm not super worried about followers and viewers, mostly because it's more like I do this anyway, and I might as well be streaming it rather than I'm streaming and what am I going to do? So. I'm not fussed. All right, where's KCT? We need to start rolling Cythera 1 out. Okay, 30 seconds to burnout. Our Spark EC, yes, that is probably not the best design choice in KCT, but you can do that. I mean, in fairness, you sort of can in real life, in the sense that it may take you a day to literally roll the thing out to the launch pad, and you can be working on the pad at the time, but then it should take like another 2 days to check the thing out on the pad. So, all right. So that's good. RCS to on. Ignite. Down pitch. Fairing SEP. We have enough delta V that we can pitch down like this. It's fine. So, yeah, we have to get over 6.5 kilometers per second and 150 kilometers. Well, we're over 150 kilometers, so that's fine. Hopefully this contract works the way I expect it to work. You're shy of 5 kilometers a second. Turn that off. All right, let's make sure this thing still has full battery. It does. Good. Stage priority is working correctly for electric charge. All right, now 600 meters per second to go. Okay, that's about to go green. And there we are. Now we just need to return home. So we're going to disengage the autopilot. We're going to flip over. Hey, Pap. Bowhead HS asks, how many hours of KSP have you logged if you were to estimate? Well, it's probably approaching 10,000 at this point. It's really probably approaching 10,000 at this point. It's it's a lot. Maybe less than that because of all the time modding doesn't count. I don't know, maybe if you count all the time modding and actually writing stuff for KSP, then it's totally over 10,000. Like, obviously. Yeah, as our Spark EC says, depends if dev time counts towards. If dev time counts, then it's obviously over 10,000. Because you figure I was either playing it or doing it as my day job or my hobby day job for the past 4 years. So yeah. All right, we're going to make this descent rather gentler. By burning retrograde a lot. Yeah, Pap, I saw that. I didn't comment on the episode because I didn't want to draw attention to it. If you didn't want to draw attention to it, or if it was like a bug or something. But yeah, it was a great deal of fun racing with you. I hope you enjoyed it too. And I hope that your country's fiscal policies can change such that you can do it again in the future. All right. So we'll align with SFL minus. And I think we're going to put a little bit of spin on just to try to keep things stabilized. And how are we doing? We're actually about to go under the horizon. So we'd better spin up and decouple, actually. Actually, let's turn that off, that on. Warp to kill anything, and then... All right. I decided not to spin up. Which was probably a stupid idea. But also there's the fact that our stage is literally still attached to us. But hopefully our ballistic coefficient is enough lower than the stage that will... Yep, it is. Good. So the stage will gradually pull away from us. We'll hopefully snap back to alignment with SFL minus. Pap, sounds awesome. And also, yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of people who'd be interested in trying it out, not just us. Like I was just saying, I have a kind of disturbing number of hours in this game. So, yeah, but also there's a lot of kind of exploity things you can do early on, as we talked about last night, in terms of what I was going to like do some stuff with the research rates in KCT and all that, so that because basically had the reason I'm in the place I'm in actually is mostly because I stole Lou Diamond's strategy. Because I was not fully clued into how much you could power game the start. Well, that's some pretty high Gs. $18 Gs, 18.6 Gs. That's some pretty high Gs. But we slowed down real fast. Man, we slowed down fast. We had a really high entry angle because we burned off all that velocity, and we came in from pretty high. Let's verify that this contract still shows. Yes, so we'll at least get some money before the Venus shot. Although I think I should do the Venus shot tomorrow. How you power game the start is you do the cheapest first flight you can, then you immediately go for the Kármán line. And then you sink almost all the funds you have into research. And then as soon as you get one of the first 3 nodes, although technically it's hardest with early construction, but get one of the first 3 nodes, preferably avionics or engines. Go for orbit then. Do some of the early orbit contracts. That gives you a ton of funds, and you sink all of them into building upgrades and, more importantly, research upgrades, so that you can start unlocking the buildings early. The only reason I've survived thus far is because I heard Blue Diamond say he was upgrading stuff early, and I was like, oh crap, I'd better do that. I forgot how long they're going to take, and immediately started doing that. Sinking, basically, you get a contract that you know you're not going to complete for 2 years, just to get the advance money so you can start the upgrades then. All right. Let's see, we're still 10 kilometers up. Yeah, it takes a bunch of playing the early game to get really a feel for what works and what doesn't. Part of it is just like, if you play a historical game, you do poorly indeed. And also, like, part of this is, for me at least, I've done a lot of stupid challenges, like going to orbit from putting something in orbit from the start node, for example, or going to the moon from just the first tier of nodes. And all that. So Blowfish, yes, espionage would be a part, and also press coverage is a part, because I'm streaming my series so everybody can see what I'm doing. And there was a while where I was temporally ahead of everyone so they could see what I was doing and then beat me. That's a tiny drogue. That's an impressively tiny drogue. Man, it's a dark evening here. All right. Oh man, I hope we float. That's a great question. I wonder if we'll float. I didn't think of that. I hope we'll float. Because I didn't actually use up that much ablator. Yeah, I used next to no ablator because we had such a steep descent. So technically, America didn't say they would put anything in orbit before Sputnik 1. Both the US and the Soviet Union committed to performing an orbital launch during the International Geophysical Year. And it just so happens that October came rather before the US thought they would, because we really seriously underestimated the scientific and technological capability of the Soviet Union, because in part in reaction to World War II, where the stories that were around were basically told from the German point of view during the war, and it's like, you know, we had the best tech, the best tactics, all these things, and they sent human waves at us, and that's why we lost. And it really wasn't until much later, and like the Soviet archives got opened up, that story got seriously challenged, and also like the thought that the dirty commies could never beat us in science, and that was obviously false, but that was sort of the thinking of the time, and that's why Sputnik 1 was such a shock. Yeah, I believe it's ablator. And I guess then it would be ablative rather than ablative. But, well, so the grammatical term is ablative. But I guess in this sense it may be ablative. I don't know. I don't actually know how to pronounce half these words. I just know how they're written. Let's warp back up. 400 meters. 300 meters. 200 meters. 100 meters. De-warp. Oh, sure. I know how to pronounce Latin words. I don't know how to pronounce English words. And we're floating, which is great, which means we can recover. Yeah, I mean, there's also, so another reason why the Russians were first was because Eisenhower made a serious decision that it was far more valuable to enshrine the tradition isn't the right word, but the practice of the skies being open, because basically much of Eisenhower's defense policy and all these policies were around basically the idea that as long as we actually knew what the Soviets were doing, we wouldn't either overspend on defense or get paranoid. Which was why there was the Open Skies Initiative, where basically the idea was that both sides would allow the other to fly spies planes over. That obviously didn't go off. So then they moved on to thinking, well, surveillance from space is the answer. But they desperately needed the framework wherein that was possible, and basically wherein the Soviets would allow space flyovers. And the way that the Eisenhower administration decided to do that was to make sure that the first U.S. satellite would be a very civilian endeavor. And that would make it traditional that they were allowed anywhere that they flew over. And then they could worry about sending up spy satellites. Oh, yes, and I see now in chat that Kindelag is also talking about this. So it seems false that it was actually Eisenhower's plan to let the Soviets launch first to be sure that satellites could do these overflights. It seems more likely that just he wanted the first satellite from the US to be a civilian satellite. And if the Russians beat us, that was fine, because they'd certainly then make it such that satellites can go anywhere. And if we were first, that would be nice, and it would be a civilian satellite, and they wouldn't object to it. And then we could send up Corona missions. So, like, we could have put up a satellite earlier from, like, a Jupiter C launch. Atlas was iffier. Atlas was very iffy. It's a miracle that SCORE worked. But, like, the decision was, and certainly historically proved to be the correct decision for a number of reasons, that policy had to be enshrined. And so there we go. That's much of the historical background for that, the ordering of those launches. Okay, so we got that contract. We now are back to having some actual money, which is nice. And we can go ahead and launch Cythera 1 in a day and a half, which will still be 2 days before the window opens. Yeah, Vanguard was, Blowfish says, and Vanguard didn't really stay on schedule. This is true. Vanguard was also, basically, Vanguard was operating on a shoestring because, again, like, this wasn't a high priority for the administration. And because it had to be very, very civilian. And it was basically, so it was notionally Navy, but was done by, like, civilian people in the Navy who were at the Naval Research Laboratory, which basically ran the sounding rocket program. And Vanguard was sort of an outgrowth of the sounding rocket program. And it had a lot of problems because it didn't use, partly because it didn't actually use anything high tech. It used off-the-shelf components. Like, you'll note that the XLR-50, aka the X405 engine, that's the first stage of Vanguard, was an engine that was a contemporary of the LR-89 and LR-79 series. Produced a fraction of the thrust, much lower specific impulse. I think it may have even used high-test peroxide to run its pump. I'm not sure. It may have had its own gas generator. I don't really remember. Much lower tech than what the military had access to, and much lower performance. The reliability of it wasn't actually that bad. It was, I think, usually second stage issues. Anyway, so yeah, it was basically like, let's say I wanted to build a fighter jet right now, because that's about as technically complex as rockets were then. But I couldn't actually use any military components like a military turbofan or military radar or military, low-vis radar absorbent material. Just do it with civilian components. And is it really going to perform on par with a military jet fighter? Well, no. And that's a lot of the reason why Vanguard was the way it was. Although swapping out the Vanguard first stage gave us Thor Able Star, Thor Delta, the Delta series, which basically Vanguard's legacy is it is basically just as long a legacy as the R7 family's legacy. And swapping out the first stage and refining Vanguard's second stage into Able gave NASA its only launch vehicle that succeeded more times than it failed in NASA's first year of existence, which was really impressive for the time. So I think on that note, I better call things to an end. We'll launch the Venus mission tomorrow. So what are we up to now? Start 15, I think, will be the next episode. This was 14. So thanks everybody for watching. And we'll see you again soon. Bye-bye.